Good morning, everybody. This is Aggie with Artist Heart Studio once again. How are you? Let me adjust things just a little bit here. And I'm still drinking my green smoothie. So if this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Agnes or Aggie. Hey, Marcia. And so this is what we're working on. I like to start out showing the sample. And I don't know, I think this is probably like day 3 of this tutorial. So, but I'm gonna repeat really quickly. It's a 12 by 24 inch canvas. And I have drawn these elements up and saved them as files for you to print out. If you scroll down in my page, you'll see where they're at. There's a template for creating the pumpkins, the pumpkin, you know, this is made out of scrapbook paper, the pedestal itself, and even the scroll work, which I'm going to demonstrate how to paint the scroll work today. I used a chalk paint in gray for the background, so it's actually Deco Art's chalky finish in the color Artifact. And then for the black, I just bought a small Folk Art black chalk paint. The reason why I'm using chalk paint is so that it has a nice contrast to the shiny paint that we're going to add later on. The shiny, it's not paint. What I used for this one was a glitter glue. And for the new sample, which I'll show you in a second, I'm going to use this called confetti glitter. It's a fabric, it's a dimensional fabric paint, which I used on a hot air balloon piece, which I haven't found yet to show you, but it's chunky. It leaves a chunky bead of gold glitter beauty. So that's gonna be really cool. And I'm gonna paint it on just like I did here on top of my lines, which you can kind of see. So we wanna have those black lines in between the sections to hide our little mistakes that might happen, you know. So anyway, back to the new one. Here's the new one, right? You know what, I did notice that the gray is slightly different. It is a slightly different gray. I don't remember what this gray was, I'm sorry. This is a warmer gray, but I like this one too. So, but you don't have to use gray. You can use whatever color you would like. All right, so let me grab my stuff that I've been using. And so what I've done so far is that I have cut out my shapes using scrapbook paper. So I'm just giving a quick review here, hope you don't mind. So these are my shapes. Let me point the camera down a little bit more so you can see. These are my scrapbook papers that I've cut out, and I used a red line to draw them, on my paper. And yeah, the red line shows, but that's not going to be a problem because, like I said, we're going to paint black around these outlines and then we're going to add glue on top of it. So you can kind of see my red, but you're not going to see it by the time I'm done. So what do you think? That's about what it's going to look like. Kind of looks like the Oprah O logo. I probably should never have said that. No, that's all you're going to see every time you look at it. But I think the gold fabric glitter paint is going to look really nice with this. What do you guys think? I used 3 scrapbook papers. You could use 5. On this one, I used 5 papers. 5 different papers. You know, and they were all correlating papers. But you could use 3, you know, I'm calling this shape number 1, shape number 2, and shape number 3. You could use your template and flip it the other way to cut these 2 pieces out of the same paper if you wanted to. So you're gonna need 12-inch by 12-inch scrapbook paper, which we all have that, right? So, all right. Now, let me get these off of here. And I guess what I wanted to talk about today is how I did this part, which I don't think I demonstrated. I just decided to do it off camera, but I'm going to give you my best tips on this. So listen up. These are some very good tips for you. All right, so we're using chalk paint, and chalk paint kind of behaves a little bit differently. It by nature, I think chalk paint just dries a little bit faster. And therein kind of lies the dilemma, because I love this. Can't wait to try this. Thank you, Kathy. That's so sweet of you to say. I'm so glad to hear that. That's the whole reason for it. Yeah, and it's easy to do. You really don't need any skills. I mean, actually, I guess today, the reason why I'm giving these pointers is you do need a little bit of skill for painting these little thin lines. Although mine aren't really all that thin, but I've got some really great tips that are going to really help you. All right, so first of all, I measured, you can go back and look at yesterday's video. I measured up 1.5 inches from the bottom. I cut out my pedestal tracer, traced it on here, right? Then I found the center of the pedestal and drew a line. You want to know exactly where the center of the pumpkin is, right? That's really important. Oops, I'm trying to position things so you can see everything. I'll tilt this just a little bit. So you need that center line. I have a pencil line right there, believe it or not, showing the center. And then, let's see, I took the, so these are some of the printouts that you get. If you scroll down, you'll find these. So all you really need to do is start with this piece, and you can flip it this way to get the other top half. You can flip it this way to get the bottom half. So there is a page that looks like this. You could just print this out. It's missing the bottom though, so I want you to notice that. It's missing the bottom. Don't forget this part. So basically you're going to create yourself this thing. This is what you need. And you can trace this onto a heavy cardstock. Like if you're going to teach this class to some other people, you can actually make yourself these pieces so that you can reuse them. So that's what I did. I traced it onto cardstock, and then I traced it onto my scrapbook paper and cut them out with the scissors. And again, I flip it the other way to get the other side of the pumpkin. So I hope that makes sense. Can you guys all hear me okay, by the way? I'm assuming that you can. Yesterday I realized I can't, today I'm seeing comments at least. Yesterday I wasn't seeing any comments. It was the weirdest thing. It was frustrating, but I'm glad I kept filming. I was ready to give up, but I didn't. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about the scroll work today. So here's what I kind of cut this a little bit, but there is a page that looks like this. It shows you a little bit of the pedestal so that you can see where this gets positioned, you know. And then I cut and lined it up with the black. So the very first thing I did was I painted the pedestal on in black. That's all I had, was the black pedestal on there. And I just used a round brush for that. You can use a round or a flat. One tip I want to give you, let's see, what brush did I use? Actually, you know what? I think I used this flat brush. I think this is the brush that I used. So one tip that I want to give you when you're using a flat brush is that you could, let me just dip this in this paint. Well, here, I'll dip it in black so you'll know what I'm talking about, since I'm talking about painting with black. So here's, I'm just going to use a styrofoam plate. I'm going to dip my brush in water first. I always dip my brush in water before I dip it in paint, with acrylic paint, because, you know, it just kind of helps a little bit. So give yourself a good dollop of paint. I don't know if you can see it, but I squeezed some paint out onto the plate there. And I'm gonna add a little bit of water. That's my trick. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to this puddle because it just like 2 or 3 drips of water. And then I'm mixing it on the plate to distribute it in the bristles. So it's kind of, you kind of have to mix it in there a little bit. So now here's how loaded my brush is, right? I don't have a glob of paint on the end, but it's pretty well loaded, this brush, right? So if you're painting a straight line, let me demonstrate on something. If you're painting a straight line, here's what I learned a long, long time ago when I used to actually design logos. Hi, Bonnie. When you're painting a straight line, so let's say I have the line drawn on there. What you want to do is you want to use the side of the flat brush to get it on there. So first you want to press somewhere where it doesn't matter and see how much your bristles are going to spread. And then you just want to kind of find your way and just use that side of the brush to paint that straight line. Don't stab at it like this, you know, or do this. It's easier if you just go like this with the side of your brush. So that's the first tip. Adding water is a tip, using the side of the brush. And then when you get to the end of the pedestal, so that's how I painted that straight line. You know, I just took my brush and went like that to get the pedestal in there. When you get to the end, to get that rounded part, there you want to be a little, you want to hold the brush a little bit differently. And let me see if I can kind of show this on here. Ooh, it's starting to rain outside. So there's the end, there's my pedestal. This is a little bit hard to show. But I'm going to reload my brush. Make sure you have paint on the tips of the bristles. So first you do your straights. Right, like that. And then to get that rounded part, I'm gonna make it so that my hand is very comfortable and I can just do this twist around there, which I can't, I have to basically have it laying down on the table, make my arm steady. Let me see if I can get this all in here in the shot, as they say. You know, it's all about finding a comfortable position for your hand, and I'm basically going to twist it around in a circle like this. You know, that's how I'm going to get that rounded edge, by doing basically this. So I just have to get it lined up, and I'm using my pinky to steady my hand. And I kind of had to stop. I couldn't get the whole circle, and that's okay, until you find your straight part again. So that's how I would do that bend. All right. And then when I did all these little scrolly leaves and whatnot, I still used the same brush, but for those lines, I did use the tip of my brush at a 90-degree angle like this at the canvas. Okay. So there, you want to try and find an even pressure as you're doing it. So I'm going to show you that on this one. I probably need to reposition the camera again a little bit. But before I show you that, what I wanted to say is I have another printout for you. And this is, it was an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and it says vines for top. This one said vines for bottom, and then this one says vines for the top. Now, when you print this out, you're going to have to also flip it over and trace it this way so that you can get the other side. And all I did was I put this up against my my sliding glass door and got a Sharpie marker and drew it this way. Okay, same thing with this one. I drew it on for the left side, and I used transfer paper. I actually used this stuff. I happen to have white, but if you have black, you know, use black. I bought this at Hobby Lobby. It's called Graphite Paper. And basically it's like an even layer of, I guess, graphite on here. Graphite's the same thing in pencils, right? So one side of it has white graphite on it, you know, and you want that side down towards your canvas. And all I did was, now you want to be a little careful where you position this, and that's the reason why I cut all this out so I could see what I was doing. But it basically goes in this upper corner, and I used the edge of my paper to kind of make sure I had it straight. So it's kind of where it's positioned, but depends on how tall you made your stem as to where you're going to put it exactly. And you're going to notice that this one comes over the top. We're going to have to paint this one back on later when we put our scrapbook paper on. It overlaps. So anyway, find the best position for this. Make sure this flower doesn't go over into the other half, because as you can see, there's two flowers there facing each other and you don't want them to hit the center line. So just have it all trimmed out. I think I had to trim this off of my paper too so that I could see what I was doing. I had to trim this off of the paper. So once you get it figured out where you want it, put a piece of tape, put your graphite paper underneath, and I like using a red ballpoint pen to transfer the design. Do a little bit and then check to see that you actually have the white showing up, or the black, whatever your graphite is. And then, so that's how I did that, okay? And then I did it, I took this, flipped it the other way, traced it on, you know, and then I transferred this onto my canvas. So now I have it there and I'm ready to paint. So I figured I'd save that painting to do in front of you so you could at least see me doing some demonstration of how to paint this scroll work. Don't be too nervous about it. If you have a really shaky hand, just use a Sharpie marker. You know, just make it easier on yourself. Just use a Sharpie marker. It's not going to look as nice as the matte paint, but that's okay, you know. Who's going to really even look at it close up anyway, more than likely. So anyway, let me put that back over there. All right, so let me see if I can get the camera down a little closer again. And hopefully make it so that you guys can see what I'm doing. I need to counterbalance my, oh boy, that's close up. That's a little too close up, right? All right. Sorry, I need to tighten some things here. Trying to tighten my mount, and it's not cooperating. All right, so I don't have great hand strength, you know. Okay, I think that might be a little better. And let me just counterbalance my, this thing. Need something heavy. Hold on. I'll put my drill. My drill is nice and heavy. Let me put the drill to counterbalance my, I use this thing called an Archon mount. That's what holds my camera. Okay, good. So now I've got my paint squirted out. Oh, you're not going to be able to see this because my hand is going to be in the way. All right, so I'm adding a little bit of water again because it dries really quick. So I'm adding a little bit more water to my black chalk paint. And yeah, I think I need to move my camera. You're just not going to be able to see it because I'm right-handed. can't even see what you're seeing. Hold on. Oops. It didn't like that. All right, let me turn this so that the camera's upside down. All right. Now, oh, goodness. Okay, my hand is here. Okay. I think you're going to be able to see this. It's hard to tell. Okay, I think you're going to be able to see it. All right, so here's my tray of paint, and what I'm going to do, now this is kind of really juicy, watery. So when you first are getting used to this, you know, you want to kind of slow it down and see how much your bristles are going to spread when you touch it on there. Because, you know, the bristles always kind of spread out. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm going to start with this little thing here, and I'm using the corner of my brush and pushing down. And I can see that I didn't get a true corner, so I reshaped the tip of the brush to get that in there. This is such a long canvas, it's kind of hard to work with, because I like having my eyes a little closer to what I'm painting. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with this line, and I'm just going to use the end of my brush, and I'm going to try and find the right amount of pressure to get the width that I want. And I'm just kind of dragging along. It's getting a little fat, so I lightened up because I was moving my arm and I wasn't stable enough, so I stopped. Ideally, you want to do this stroke in one continuous motion, but sometimes you just can't. And don't worry about that little bit being a little thicker, because you can come back and clean that up with the gray paint. The gray paint will cover nicely. So now I'm going to do this one. I'm going to start in the stem, try and find even pressure, and don't move too slow either, because if you move too slow, it's going to be, you know, shaky, the line. So, you know, you can definitely practice. Oh, sorry, I don't think that was totally in camera. You know, you can totally practice on paper. So I'm kind of turning this as I go. I don't know if you can tell. And I'm going real slow. You know, really super slow. It's hard for me to position this so that you can see it. And I always re-chisel the tip of my brush. So this is such a strong bend here. I'm not going to be able to get the tips of my bristles all down in that small of a space. So I kind of messed that up, but it's not too bad. So, I mean, it's like you reload your brush, you make sure your paint is still juicy, because if the paint is nice and juicy, it's going to flow off your brush a lot more readily. If the paint, and by nature, chalk paint, you know, just dries fast and gets really thick on you. So you definitely want to have nice, juicy, flowable paint, you know, so that you can get it to flow off your brush easily. And, okay, re-chisel. And when I start the line, I started in the vine that it's coming off of. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and paint this leaf on here, even though it's going to get covered up by the scrapbook paper. And I'm probably going to switch to a smaller brush for all those little curves. So when I want to get the points of the leaves, I turn my canvas the other way so that I can see where I'm placing my brush down to get the tips of that, if that makes sense. So, you know, I always turn my canvas every which way so that I'm, you know, as comfortable as possible while I'm painting. You don't want to contort your wrist or your hand, you know, ever, because you're not gonna get a good line that way. All right, so I'm gonna rinse this brush out and grab a round. I'm not gonna go too small. One thing another tip I guess I could tell you is I really like using script brushes, or liner brushes they're sometimes called, to paint lines. The reason is because I'm cleaning mine out to show you. They hold more paint. So here's a liner brush. This is a Blick Scholastic Wonder White. I think it's a size 4 or so. I'm not sure the numbers. I can't see the number. But because the bristles are longer, it holds more paint, which is good because you don't have to reload your brushes often. So anyway, here's my paint. It looks like a little bit dry. The part where I added the water is gone, so I'm adding more water. And I'm mixing the water into the paint. So my brush is pretty loaded, but there's not a glob loaded onto the end of my brush. Okay, so that's about how it should be loaded. Now I can come in over here and do these little curlicues. So let's start with this one. Are we doing okay? Can you guys see this? Bonnie, hi Bonnie, watching. Okay, yeah, I don't know if there's any questions or not, but I'm pushing the comments aside so that I can occasionally look up and see. So I'm going to start where I left off, and I'm just going to do my best to stay right in that line. I'm going to paint the circle first, and I'm just using the tip of the bristles. Just try to make it flow into the line you already painted. Okay, here's another one. Do the circle. Now, if I didn't have this paint a little bit watered down, this would be a lot harder to do. Reload my brush. Here's another one. Boy, that one I kind of messed up a little bit, didn't I? But I'm just going to do my best to make it look like an even thickness, you know, and I can always come back when it's dry and hit it with some gray background color, you know, if I need to. Picture this being a circle inside of a circle. Okay. Kind of wish I'd used this brush from the beginning. I would have done a better job, but that's okay. Oops, went too far. And, you know, if your paint is a little too watery, then you can, you know, just come back in and hit it with a second coat. So now I'm just going around and looking for places where I need to even it up a little bit. Don't be afraid to go back in and do this part. It can really make a big difference. You don't have to necessarily have them be really thin to be pretty. So maybe I'll bring the tip of this up just a little bit more. Could even have it at an angle, why not? Okay, so that's what that looks like. So you want to try and get it symmetrical with your other side, maybe, you know. And, you know, give yourself a little grace. I know this is not easy. Doing this kind of stuff, this kind of painting can be a little nerve-wracking. Just, you know, be gentle with yourself. It's just fun stuff, not a big deal. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And then I can let that dry and come back and, you know, even up any little places that I want to. Actually, this flower I don't like, or this leaf, I don't like the way that looks, so. So when it dries, I'll come back with my gray paint. I'll fix that little thing right there. I'll fix this right here. And then it'll be all set. If you want to be that picky, you don't even have to be that picky, honestly. So, what did you think of that? All right, let me get my camera up and see you guys. Was that helpful? Was that helpful, that little bit? You know, I mean, sometimes we're scrutinizing it so close. Thanks, Marcia, for commenting. Sometimes, you know, we're scrutinizing stuff so close. I mean, it's like, okay, let's look at it from a distance now. You know, I don't mind it being, the lines being kind of beefy. I don't mind it. And, you know, these two are a little different from each other, but it's okay. You know? So, all right. Now, even though that is, thank you for the hearts, even though that is wet, we can continue on to the next step here. So let me talk a little bit about that. The exciting part. This is so fun, you guys. This is basically how I did a bunch of art pieces that I've sold over the years, you know, mixing paint with collage. I love it. I love it. So I'm going to be careful not to hit the wet parts. That would be tragic. I do want to warn you now, when I did, it's good. Oh, thank you, Tammy. Hey, Lisa. Hey, good to see you guys. So I do want to warn you, with these cut pieces, there is a top and a bottom. I noticed that. If I have this oval flipped the wrong way, it doesn't fit quite the same. You know what I mean? It's not perfectly, and I think this is the top. Let me stick it on here and see. Let me just put it on here. You know, it's okay. As long as you keep it straight, you know, which is the top and which is the bottom, you're going to be fine. So, okay, let me flip this back down again. Oh, we're really close, but that's okay, right? All right, so as you can see, I did, well, maybe you can't see, but I do have my pencil line on here. And I'm gonna double check if I have this the right way. I think I do. That looks pretty good. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna glue these pieces on here. And I'm trying to remember if it mattered which I glued first. And honestly, I don't think it matters. But common sense kind of tells me I should probably start with the outer piece, this piece first. I never did the paint and scrapbook paint before. Yeah, so it's a new thing to add to your whole repertoire, Marcia, and I'm excited to see what you create with these ideas, you know. Let me grab something really quick to show you if I have any down here. Oh, I might not have any down here. Okay, wait a second. Oh, here, okay. So, I mean, what happened eventually is that I really kind of got into this, and I don't know, one day I was in a boot mood, and I just, you know, drew a boot shape and thought, you know, what kind of stuff could I put to embellish a boot? You know what, I had a bead here, it must have fallen off. And, you know, I went to the craft store and found all these cool things, you know. There's actually a strip of velvet underneath here that I covered. But this is lace, these are beads. This was, I don't know, a lock and key chain. And then I thought of putting this, I found a glue that enabled me to glue this cording all the way around there. And so this is all, you know, there's no paint involved with this one, but I don't know, I had a lot of fun with doing these kinds of things for a while, you know. Something different. Here's another one. And this was like my first online class that I did. I made these, and I just had so much fun making these, you know. So this was just straight up collage, I guess you could say. But I think that was the beginning of my embellishment, you know, craze. So now I have things kind of like this, you know, where I like doing resin. I just like embellishing, you know what I mean? Oops. I really like putting stuff on and making it more dimensional and things like that. So, you know, when you explore and try different things, that's how you discover what you really like and what brings you joy in the creating process, right? So this just brings me joy. You know, I don't care if I sell this. This isn't about selling it. It's just about really having fun creating it, you know? So, and you got to do that as an artist, right? You guys, you got to just create just for you, just for yourself. So, okay. Anyway, kind of went off on a tangent there. Oh, thanks, Marcia. All right, so I want to tell you a little bit about gluing scrapbook papers down. You probably know this already, but paper stretches when it's wet. Yeah, hello, we all know that, right? But just keep that in mind. It's going to stretch, and it's going to not, you know, go down exactly where you expect it to go down because it's going to stretch. So we're just going to keep that in mind. No big deal. I've got my matte gel medium. This is the jar that's the easiest to open today. That's the only reason why I'm using this one. You could use your Mod Podge. The only thing I'm going to say is that you want to get it, you want it to be matte, not shiny. So I've got, you know, matte Mod Podge. You can use this. I've got this matte gel from Hobby Lobby. This stuff works great. It works great. It's every bit as good as the Liquitex. So, and it's so much cheaper. Well, I mean, it's $20, 16 ounces. How many ounces is this one? It's actually a bigger container, 473 ml versus 500 ml. But of course, you can use your 40% off coupon. So honestly, this stuff is every bit as good as the Liquitex, just FYI. But I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use a, an old brush. I have plenty of them. I'm going to use an old crappy brush that I don't really care about. And here's the thing. You can go ahead and paint this on here, paint it on here, and it's not going to show. We're going to wind up painting this on the top of this paper, so don't worry about it. I'm not even going to use a scrapbook surface. I mean, I'm not going to use a second surface to paint it on. I'm going to do it right on my canvas. Just get myself a glob, and I put it on the paper first so that it can start stretching. Put it on the paper first so that your paper can start stretching, because it's going to stretch. And it's going to kind of, bend and twist a little bit and get all weird on you. Don't worry about that. Just make sure it's, nice and saturated. Don't worry about getting it on the other side. You don't even have to worry about the matte gel getting on top of your black paint. It'll be okay. All right, so that's completely saturated. I'm gonna knock down any high ridges of matte gel that I left on there. I'm gonna lay my brush down. All right, so I'm gonna figure out where this goes, and I'm ready to pull it back up if I need to. But actually, I think I lucked out. I think it looks pretty good. And I'm really just gonna use my finger to make sure it's, kind of in the right position. And then I'm just going to grab more matte gel. Oh, I need to plug in a second. And I'm going to use the brush to apply pressure and push it down. Now this is a canvas, so it's going to have a little give to it. This particular canvas has a board in the back to help with this situation, but you might want to have your hand on the back of the canvas to apply pressure. Or I've even taken like a piece of cardboard or something to make it nice and rigid behind the canvas. You could do that too. But that's good enough, That's going to be just fine. And it's nice, and I'm pushing down so that it's firmly attached. And this is how I've done, all of my collage pieces, is just I use the brush, to push it down. All right, so I didn't even bother putting it on the canvas. I only put it on the paper. So now here's my next piece. Oops, that's the other side, I think. Let's double check. Is this piece? Yeah, I think so. So I'm going to put this matte gel on the back side of it so that it starts stretching. And, I'm being pretty generous with it. Knock this back down. Lay my brush down. Let's put this piece on here. Looks good. I'm looking out here. So I start in the middle and I go back and forth and I'm pressing, and it's still, there's a little ridge here where it's not completely flat. You want to start from the middle and work your way, you know, towards the ends. Pressing, making sure it's got some nice contact there. This is starting to form too much of a bubble that's not lifting, so I'm going to lift it up. Now, if you do have to lift your paper up, be very careful because it might take off the surface of the underneath paper where it was overlapping. So you want to be very gentle. All right, pretty good. I think I'm going to go over to the other side. Can you use a sponge brush? Sponge brush. Oh, a foam brush? I don't think it has to be nice and rigid. It has to be really rigid so that it applies pressure. As long as you get that pressure, you'll be okay. So I'm going to go put this paper down on this side now. I want to put this piece down last, the center. Because they do, when it stretches, the beauty of this is when they stretch, they overlap each other a little bit. I'm going to be a little careful about dipping this in the glue there. So start in the middle, work your way up. Yeah, I don't think a sponge brush would give enough of a rigid, because, you know, remember, we're burnishing at the same time. We're kind of burnishing at the same time. All right, there's that one. Let's get this one on here. This looks a little low. Oops. Still looks just a little bit low. Okay, I think I got it. Hey Tracy, how are you? So I'm going to start in the middle. Oh, I got a ridge there. Adding a little bit more matte gel and just really pushing it down. I see my pencil line there. So I might have to come back with my gray paint to cover up my pencil line that's showing, but that's okay. Or maybe by the time I outline it, that might not show, that pencil line. We'll see. I'm not gonna worry about it. All right, that looks good. Next section. Which way does this go? See, I keep forgetting to pay attention to which side is the top. I think it'll go that way. Okay, so let's turn it over. Start applying the gel in the middle of the section. Putting plenty on there. So you do have to do this pretty quick, by the way, in case you didn't notice. I remember when I would teach these classes, people would just take their time with this and the gel would start drying. And then the paper wouldn't be stretchy. And it's like, well, no, you gotta hurry up, folks. Don't be a perfectionist. And then I would joke around about being bossy. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, get this top coat on, and I'm pushing so that I'm burnishing it. And I just love how it leaves a nice matte surface. And you could even paint on top of this. It's just really great stuff. You know, how you can paint on top of it afterwards. All right, looks pretty good. So now we're ready for our last piece. Yay! All right. I don't want this to cause me problems. So this one, it's big, so you got to really try to do it quick. Okay, good. You know, and as quick as you put it on there, the paper immediately starts stretching. But like I say, that works in our favor because then they kind of overlap each other. But like I say, just make sure you know which is the top and which is the bottom, because this is not perfectly, you know, symmetrical. All right, so there we go. Let's get that. It's already starting to dry. Ooh, I wonder if I have it the wrong way. See, I think I flipped it the wrong way. Is this the right way? Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah, I guess it's close. It'll work. We're gonna outline, so don't worry. So I'm starting in the middle. Work my way down. I'm burnishing as I'm doing this. And again, you might need to put your hand on the back of the canvas so that you're applying pressure. So I am kind of stretching this paper as I'm doing it. I'm kind of coaxing it to stretch a little bit more. And I'm really pushing hard with my brush. Okay, let's do the other half. I'm using plenty of matte gel too. Don't be skimpy on your matte gel. Yeah, that worked. There is a little bit of a crack right there. I can see in between, but no problem. We're going to cover that up when we paint our outlines on. So that was the reason why we have the outlines on. All right, so now right away, what did she say? Make it look, I've done a lot of these. It actually is pretty easy, to be honest with you. But I have done a lot of these. You know, if you're not used to working with matte gel, one project and you'll have it down. I promise. Not that hard. All right, so now this is going to ruin this brush. And this was a funky old brush that I didn't care about anyway. But the first thing I'm going to do is this, because I'm all done with my matte gel. So I'm going to squeeze as much of this out as I can. And believe it or not, this will still be a usable paintbrush. but I'm squeezing and going this way. I don't want to push it down into the ferrule. I'm squeezing and pushing it that way. And then immediately I'm going to put this in a cup of hot soapy water. Oh, I hate getting it on my fingers, but yeah, you're right. You could do that. I absolutely hate trying to get gel off my fingers. I hate it. That's just me. All right, so I'm at my sink rinsing this really quick. Let me just get this in some hot water. Hot soapy water. And the nice thing about rinsing that off right away is that I can get it off of my fingers. So I was just rolling, you know, rolling it like this, and it just makes all that come off. It takes me all day to peel it off. Yeah, I know, right? It really does. And forget having a manicure. So, all right, now don't get nervous when you see this sort of thing. I don't think that's going to be an issue. It looks weird right now because it's wet. But this is going to dry matte and really beautiful in a little bit. And you can see my mistakes. You can see there's a pencil line showing here. There's red lines showing here. No problem. We're gonna cover that up with our black paint, and I'm gonna do that part tomorrow. And again, I'm gonna be using the same black chalk paint, and I'm gonna paint those lines on there with my liner brush, and then we're gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna paint on top of the dried black lines with this. I think I'm just gonna squeeze it right on there. Hopefully it'll work. This is dimensional fabric paint with glitter. I think it's going to be cool. But okay, I want to go back and fix those mistakes that I made. Remember I said we can go back with the gray paint and fix it? So I'm going to do that with you guys real quick now. And if you are doing this project, I am dying to see how you're doing on it. I would love to see your papers that you're using. Are you going to use 3 papers or 5? And are you going to do a gray background like I did? Or when I was at the store getting this stuff, because I didn't have any black chalk paint left, when I was at the Hobby Lobby, they had very little paint. They had very little of these chalk paints on the shelves. They didn't even have this color. Some rickrack or lace. Oh yeah, that's a great idea, Tammy. I didn't even think of that. That's such a great idea. Make it really kind of goth, old-fashioned looking or something, right? All right, so let me get some gray paint out now. And I'm gonna turn this so I can reach it. Right? Can you still see this? I could probably come down a little bit. All right, so I'm just gonna clean up a little bit. And again, I'm gonna get some paint on my palette. And the trick is adding just a little bit of water. So my water is all black. Let me go change this out really quick. Just a tiny bit of water is going to make this paint, you know, do as I command, so to speak. You know, it just makes it more flowable, makes it more flowy. Is that a word? Flowy. And so I just mix it and twirl my brush. Okay, and then I'm just going to come in here and look for, you know, if there's a really thick part, like right here, this looks a little bit weird. So I'm going to start my brush stroke over here. And again, I'm using the side of the brush. See how I'm using the side of the brush to get that? Somebody taught me that a long time ago. Again, when I was a junior designer, and we used to hand paint logos in this studio that I worked at. We did corporate design, corporate identity design. It was a great job. I loved it. It was called Donald Shelton and Associates. And I don't know, somehow he didn't get enough accounts and didn't keep us busy enough. And we would wind up playing ping pong all day. And I became a master ping pong player. It was Nerf ping pong. I can't believe I'm telling you guys this. But I gotta tell you, Nerf ping pong is a whole lot of fun. Oh, we gotta paint the black on top of here too. Nerf ping pong. Yeah, I was the only woman. I was the only woman designer working there. The owner was a guy, and there were two designers. They were a lot older than me. I was a kid. I mean, I was like, gosh, 24. I was so young. 23, 24. Wow, that was so long ago. Wonder what became of him. I think he wound up, he wound up having to lay everybody off eventually, you know. And I think he eventually got a job as a designer at Moody Bible Institute. He was a very devout Christian guy. And, he had quite a temper. He didn't really set a very great example of being a Christian, to be honest with you. But, well, who does, you know? We all fall short. I know I sound judgmental, but I mean, we were just all sitting around, you know. We all felt a little bit like, oh, come on, get us some clients. We want to work, you know. And I think he was just, I don't know. I think he was afraid of getting clients. I don't think he was trying. He would rather play ping pong. Isn't that funny? I don't know what the lesson was I was supposed to learn from that, I guess. If you want to succeed, you can't play ping pong all day. I guess that was the lesson. Trying to fix that. That's a little weird looking. Okay. Yeah, I'm being really picky here. I probably don't need to be this picky. But yeah, I think actually that Donald was the guy that showed me this trick. Yeah, and the only other two women in the office was his wife and a friend of the family that helped them with accounting. And they were very, very nice women. Really nice. All right, I think that's pretty good. So that's one of my stories. Yeah, I should go look up those guys I used to work with. One guy was named Fred. I can't remember his last name though. Fred and Lou. Yeah, Fred and Lou. They were really nice guys. All right, so let's see. What else do we need to do? Let's paint the black leaf. The black leaf needs to go in front of this now. And I think I can do that without, if you're nervous, you can go get your tracer and trace it back on there. I'm just going to draw it with pencil, I think. So this came back up like this, and I think it's something like this, maybe. Right? I'm just going to kind of draw that on there so I know. Where I'm painting. Okay, can you see that? Oh, let me plug in my phone. Okay. And then I think that's probably going to be it after I paint these in. Oh, there was a doohickey there, I think. I'm not sure what that was. Okay. Is this visible? Yeah. Right here. We're going to paint this back in. So again, a little bit of water in my black paint. Charlie just banged into something. And just gonna paint over this. Okay, then we'll do the other side. I'm just so sick of all this, you know, violence in my town. It's just so bad right now. I hope it's the end of it. They burned down more buildings last night. Even this little Danish American club. Why would they burn that down, you know? Just horrible. Anyway, trying not to think about that. I think I am going to paint over this glue here. Yeah, I'm going to paint over this little bit of glue to make it more matte. And there we go. I think that's it. I think that's all I wanted to do for today. Tomorrow, we will do the final steps. So tomorrow, let me point the camera back up. Upside down. So, okay, tomorrow, how does it look? What do you think? Yeah, I like it. Do you like it? It's nice and neutral, right? You know what? I bet I could add orange. I could probably paint a little bit of a wash of something on top of this if I wanted to, right? I don't know that I want to. I'm just saying I probably could. If you wanted to change yours up a little bit, you could paint a vine coming in front, you know, on the bottom, the way we have a vine. We have some leaves in front. I kind of like that look. You could add a couple more leaves if you wanted to make yours a little different. Or maybe just one. You could even have one leaf coming in the front and have a message on it, you know, right? So you could also, if you haven't started yours yet, you could put it on a white table. What if there was like a curve right here that this is sitting on a white table? That would be cool too. So, you know, don't be afraid to make yours your own, you know. Tomorrow when we come back, I'm going to show you how to do the outlines. We're going to put black lines to cover up, you know, this stuff. And then we're going to add the glitter highlights. So, yes! Yes, yes, yes. I think it's so cool that it's something really unique. Everybody's doing the same looking pumpkins online right now. And I think this is very different looking. So I am I'm excited about that. And I'm excited to see yours too. So anyway, you guys, thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you are enjoying this. I know I am. And sending you love and best wishes and peace. And, you know, yesterday I was so full of unrest and just so anxious. And today I'm just focusing on finding peace in my heart and, knowing who's really in charge. So anyway, I hope you can do that too. And that's it, you guys. I'm going to let you go. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock and we'll finish up our gorgeous pedestal pumpkin. All right, have a good one. Bye.